and welcome to another edition of Welbodi. Welbodi is West Africa Democracy Radio's flagship health magazine, and I am the host of the program, Oge Obierika. Today on Welbodi.
For me, my experience in having sleepwalking is not all the time, but it happens once in a while, Sometimes I can say in a full year it only happened maybe 2-3 times or 4, I don't know.
So sleepwalking is a phenomenon when someone who is asleep, instead of remaining lying asleep, gets up and participates in some activity. So it's generally, there are different types, but the most common type is walking.
Ever heard of the term sleepwalking? Perhaps you have. And if you haven't, in this edition, our guest will be giving us a thorough look at this sleeping disorder, the causes, and its effective management.
Since the beginning of this year, the Democratic Republic of the Congo has been experiencing a severe outbreak of Mpox, with more than 14,000 reported cases and 511 deaths. The number of cases reported in the first 6 months of this year match the number reported in all of last year, and the virus has spread to previously unaffected provinces.
Also coming up on the program, the World Health Organization WHO takes action on the Mpox virus as cases increase in Africa. Stay tuned. I had to welcome to you, our most cherished listener. Yes, you tuned in right now via our partner stations in your country, Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, the Gambia, or Sierra Leone. Wherever it is you're listening from, many thanks to you for joining us. Yes, it's that time when we engage in healthy conversations. We look into present health issues in the sub-region, developments across the board, and even personal health matters, because we want to help you make the right choices for your health. Let's dive right in with our first topic, sleepwalking. You're probably wondering, how possible is it for a person to walk while they are asleep? Well, it is, and very much so. Now, sleepwalking occurs when a person walks or carries out complex activities while not fully awake. It usually happens during a period of deep sleep, mostly during the first few hours after falling asleep. Sleepwalking can start at any age, but it is more common in children. It is thought that 1 in 5 children will sleepwalk at least once. Most grow out of it by the time they reach puberty. However, it can sometimes persist into adulthood. In some episodes of sleepwalking, a person may just sit up in bed and look around, briefly appearing confused. Others may get out of bed and walk about, get dressed or eat, and they may appear agitated. In extreme cases, the person may walk out of the house and carry out complex activities such as driving a car. Yes, something that's complex. Although the eyes are usually open during sleepwalking, the person will look straight through people and not recognize them. If you speak to them, they may partially respond or say things that do not make sense. Now, most sleepwalking episodes would usually last less than 10 minutes, but they can be longer. At the end of each episode, the person may wake up or return to bed and go back to sleep. However, they will normally not have any memory of the incident in the morning, and even if they do, it may be patchy. Take a listen to this experience shared with us anonymously.
For me, my experience in having sleepwalking is not all the time, but it happens once in a while, Sometimes I can say in a full year it only happened maybe 2-3 times or 4, I don't know. I cannot tell, but then it doesn't happen most of the time. So, but this is something that mostly it happened to me during cold season, and it happened in the middle of the night when I'm already sleeping and it is cold. I started getting this type of dreams that I'm doing work, I'm working, and doing a lot of things. And the interesting thing of it is that, like, some of the time when I have this, it will come a time when it will come into reality, that I will do it in real life, understand? For example, that I can say, okay, I am dreaming that, I am working. If I wake up and I realize that, okay, it was just a dream that I was doing this thing. So, but it will come a day that that particular dream will come in reality, that I am doing exactly what I have dreamt about. And then I will reminisce and say, okay, I think there was a day I imagined about this. Then I will think about when was this. Then I will say, okay, it was a dream that I had that I was doing this and now I'm doing it. Understand? So that's the experience usually I used to have when I'm into sleepwalking. So, but it doesn't come to me, usually all the time.
That was an anonymous contributor sharing his experience on sleepwalking. To better understand sleepwalking, the possible triggers and adequate steps to efficiently manage this condition, my colleague Imo Edat spoke with Dr. Augustina Chawe-Feli, a general neurologist and cognitive behavioral science expert.
So sleepwalking is a phenomenon when someone who is asleep, instead of remaining lying asleep, gets up and participates in some activity. So it's generally, there are different types, but the most common type is walking, and hence the name sleepwalking. So the person is asleep, but instead of remaining lying asleep, they get up and they walk, they roam around a little bit. They usually end up going back to bed anyway.
But how is this person able to maneuver his or her way through still sleeping?
So they are asleep, but they are not fully unconscious. It's not a normal state of sleep. So sleep has different phases. The one that most people would have heard of is REM, rapid eye movement sleep. And during that phase of sleep, that's when we dream. During that phase of sleep, usually you do not move. In the other non-REM phases of sleep, your body does move, and it's sort of like a transitional state between you're asleep properly and you're awake. So they're not unconscious, but they are asleep but awake enough to be able to navigate the space that they're walking through. But there can be injury because they can't react like a person who is awake will react. So they can fall over, fall downstairs, and hurt themselves.
But what are some of the things that one can say are the causes of sleepwalking?
So sleepwalking isn't exactly a disease. It is not normal sleep. It's not normal sleep behavior, but it is not a disease either. Most of it passes without any issues. The things we know make it more likely to happen is often stress, fatigue, preceding poor sleep. Some medications can make it more likely to happen, especially medications that we take sometimes unprescribed for sleep. So many of our sleep medications can actually make this more likely to happen.
Is it bad for us, the sleepwalking?
No, not really. Aside from minor injuries, it generally doesn't do anything to you. We consider this benign. It doesn't even need any treatment.
Well, what are some of the myths that you have heard around sleepwalking? I know it's not usually reported to hospitals, but what are some of those things you've heard about it?
So yes, it would not commonly be reported to a hospital. The biggest myth is that if you wake someone who's sleepwalking up, something will happen to their soul. That's incorrect. In general, you don't want to alarm them, so you'll gently direct them back to bed. I do have to say this though, it's not a myth, but it's one of the things that you need to, especially if this is happening in a child, which it often does, is to make sure a pediatrician has checked the child and said that, oh, don't worry, this is just sleepwalking and not epilepsy. Because sometimes nocturnal seizures may behave a little bit to the untrained eye and look like the person is sleepwalking, but they're not. So just have it checked out. If it is indeed sleepwalking, it is not a problem at all.
Doc, please, can you further explain this last point you just mentioned now?
If you have a child that is sleepwalking, or you have noticed that there are unusual behaviors in sleep, it is best to present that child to a pediatrician, that's the doctor that treats little children, to make sure that there are no other problems. The main one we would be concerned about is epilepsy, so seizures that are happening at night, which may sometimes, not commonly, but it needs to be ruled out, look like the sleepwalking. So just have the child seen. The pediatrician will do some tests to make sure that this is not epilepsy, and most of the time it isn't.
But are there any other thing in particular that can trigger sleepwalking?
For adults, it would be, again, sleep aids that people use, so medications, hypnotics, sometimes illicit drugs, narcotics, and the most common one would be alcohol.
Now, there's also the belief that you mentioned it earlier, but there's this other part that says if you wake someone who is sleepwalking, the person may have a cardiac arrest or may die as a result of the shock. How true is this? Not
true at all. They will just be alarmed if you wake them up rudely, like anyone would be when you wake them up rudely. But no, that does not happen.
Okay. So what should parents do aside taking them to see the doctor in the case of a child, sleepwalking? What other thing can parents do?
So once it's established that it is just sleepwalking, the main thing is not to worry about it. So depending on how pronounced the sleepwalking is, the parents just need to ensure that the environment that the child sleeps in is a safe one, so there are no obstacles that they can hurt themselves on. If the sleepwalking is that pronounced that they go out, just make sure that windows and doors are locked and in such a way that they can't be opened, so that, again, reducing the likelihood of traumatism. Reduce the stress that the child is under, getting sleep habits appropriate for the child. Otherwise, generally, nothing much needs to be done, and most of the time it stops on its own.
How common is this in our society?
For our society, I guess we really don't know because, like you mentioned yourself, it is often not reported, not considered to be a medical problem. But in general, from worldwide statistics, it is about 1% of the population will experience it at some point in their lives.
So, Doc, does this often happen more with the children or adult?
More often with children, but adults can have it too.
In the case of the adult, what would you attribute it to?
So it is often, again, stress. It can be medications that they are taking for other things. And like I mentioned before, some of the medications that we use inappropriately, so sleep aids, again, sleeping pills. If you have Parkinson's disease, the levodopa in the Parkinson's disease medications can also make it more likely to happen. Many anti-seizure medications also make it more likely to occur.
So, finally, before I let you go, doctor, how do you treat sleepwalking?
It doesn't require treatment. If you know that there's an offending agent that is causing it, that's possible, can be removed. Sleepwalking does not really require treatment. As I mentioned before, it's a benign condition, so it's not harmful. However, if we do know that there's an offending agent, for example, it's alcohol or a sleeping pill that is being used inappropriately, if it is possible to remove that. So please remember that many of the medications that can trigger sleepwalking are necessary medications. And because the phenomenon itself, the sleepwalking, is not harmful, there's no need to do anything about it.
Doctor, I would like you to advise our listeners on issues like this.
Well, the first thing is never panic. It's not helpful. It just makes life a lot more complicated. If you do have any kind of concern, present to your general practitioner, have them check you out and reassure you so that you continue not to worry about it.
Dr. Augustina Chawefeli is a general neurologist and cognitive behavioral science expert. If you're just joining us, this is Welbodi brought to you on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. You can also listen to Welbodi in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County, Voice of Liberia FM 104.1 in Monrovia, Voice of Liberia FM 89.7 in Kakata, Magibi County, and Kwakata Radio 100.9 FM, Banga. Ghana via Royals FM 104.7, Wenchi, and on Pod 95.1 FM, Savannah Region, Nigeria on Albaka Radio 97.5 FM, Bauchi, and Darling FM 107.3 FM, Owerri, Southeast Nigeria. If you are in the Gambia, you can listen on Hot 104.3 FM and Numi FM 94.0 FM North Bank region, and in Sierra Leone via African Young Voices 101.6 FM Freetown and Radio Gbaft FM 91.3 Mile 1. We have been talking about sleepwalking. If you missed the earlier part of the program, please do listen again on wadr.org or visit our page on Audiomack and SoundCloud. Movement, movement, movement. Every single day we move. We move for survival, we move instinctively, and we move out of the need for raw and authentic expression. Now, movement that connects us to each other in mind, body, and spirit is dance. And we'll be talking about that in the second part of the program. Personally, I like to think of dance as a conversation between body and soul, and that is because of the many positive ways through which it impacts us mentally and physically. Dance has always been and will continue to be a part of human culture and celebrations. My colleague Abdullahi Hassan in this report tells us what happens to the body when we dance.
Today, dances are mostly about recreation and self-expression, either by an individual or a group of individuals. Although it can also be done as a competitive activity, dancing is an enjoyable way to be more physically active and stay fit. As one of the best forms of exercise, dancing gives you both aerobic and anaerobic fitness, as it helps keep people of all ages, shapes and sizes healthy. It has a wide range of physical and mental benefits, including improved heart and lung functions, increased muscular strength, endurance and motor fitness, increased aerobic fitness, and improved muscle tone and strength. Dancing also helps in weight management, reduces the risk of osteoporosis, better coordination, agility, and flexibility, as well as better social skills. That said, there are lots of different places where you can enjoy dancing. For example, at dance schools, social venues, community halls, and in your home. Dancing has become such a popular way to be active and keep fit that most fitness clubs now offer dance classes in their group exercise programs, like a dance hall in the Senegalese capital of Dakar, which Konaka Baye visits.
I've been dancing with the dance hall for almost a year now, or maybe a little over a year or so. Well, it's the exercise. It's to release a little bit of stress after a hard days of work. It's to keep fit and just get the blood pumping. And of course, I love dancing with the girls as well. I sleep better, not very tense at work, which is good. And I lost a few kilos.
But let's share with you some health tips if you are thinking of taking up dancing. First of all, see your doctor for a checkup if you have a medical condition, overweight, or over 40 years of age, among other factors. Wear layers of clothing that you can take off as your body warms up. Do warm-up stretches or activities before you begin a dance session. Drink plenty water before, during, and after dancing. And make sure you rest between dance sessions. In dance, you achieve aerobic exercise by moving, jumping, and twirling. The anaerobic type of exercise comes when you hold positions like squatting and balancing.
Okay, so I would say dancing is something that gets one's mind active.
It helps you release certain, should I say fat, certain things the body doesn't need. And then it helps you become very active in your daily life. It's just like walking, running, press-ups and all that. You can replace it with dancing.
Dancing stretches your body in ways that other forms of exercise don't. Improved flexibility is great for your body's physical health, according to fitness experts. While you may not feel the same muscle development with dance as with weightlifting, you may still experience total body strengthening with dance. Many dance styles require lifting, looping, and twirling, which require a muscular drive that builds over time.
Dance is an important thing that we shouldn't undermine its benefit. Some importance or health benefit of dance is it's therapeutic, as in it helps to release stress. Okay, when you dance, it sometimes helps you to forget about your worries, the kind of problems you are going through. It helps to lose weight. It helps when you dance, you sweat. And we know sweat is waste or something metabolic. That has to come out from the body. So when you dance, it helps to remove all those waste or release stress.
A half hour of dancing can burn between 200 and 400 calories, and it is so much more enjoyable than the treadmill. Dancing for 20 minutes just 3 times a week can drastically improve your heart health and reduce your chances of developing cardiovascular disease. Now that you know the health benefits of dancing, get into your dancing shoes and dance your way to fitness.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. And just before we go, let's bring you some health news. The World Health Organization, WHO, has summoned an emergency meeting of international experts as cases of the most dangerous Mpox virus variant surge in African countries. Reports suggest that this variant is highly infectious, allowing it to spread rapidly among individuals. Here is WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus.
Since the beginning of this year, the Democratic Republic of the Congo has been experiencing a severe outbreak of Mpox, with more than 14,000 reported cases and 511 deaths. The number of cases reported in the first 6 months of this year match the number reported in all of last year, and the virus has spread to previously unaffected provinces. In the past month, about 50 confirmed and more suspected cases have been reported in 4 countries neighboring the DRC that have not reported before: Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. Mpox outbreaks are caused by different viruses called clades. Clade 1 has been circulating in the DRC for years, while Clade 2 was responsible for the global outbreak which began in 2022. The current outbreak in the eastern DRC is caused by a new offshoot of Clade 1 called Clade 1b, which causes more severe disease than Clade 2. Clade 1b has been confirmed in Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, while the clade in Burundi is still being analyzed. At the same time, cases of Clade 1a have been reported this year in DRC, the Central African Republic, and the Republic of Congo, while Clade 2 has been reported in Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Nigeria, and South Africa. WHO is working with the governments of the affected countries, the Africa CDC, NGOs, civil society, and other partners to understand and address the drivers of these outbreaks. WHO has developed a regional response plan requiring $15 million to support surveillance, preparedness, and response activities. We have released $1 million from the WHO Contingency Fund for Emergencies to support scale-up of the response, and we plan to release more in the coming days. There are 2 vaccines or Mpox that have been approved by WHO-listed national regulatory authorities and which are recommended by WHO Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization, or SAGE. I have triggered the process for emergency use listing of both vaccines, which will accelerate vaccine access, particularly for lower income countries, which have not yet issued their own national regulatory approval. Emergency use listing also enables partners, including Gavi and UNICEF, to procure vaccines for distribution. In light of the spread of Mpox outside DRC and the potential for further international spread within and outside Africa, I have decided to convene an emergency committee under the international health regulations to advise me on whether the outbreak represents a public health emergency of international concern. The committee will meet as soon as possible and will be made up of independent experts from a range of relevant disciplines from around the world.
Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus is the Director General for WHO. Meanwhile, the Africa CDC may declare a public health emergency this week over the fast spread of the Mpox virus. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention Thursday said it was concerned about the growing Mpox outbreak on the continent. Now, this is the health agency's first time to issue its highest health alert since the new mandate in 2023. However, Jean Cassia, head of the Africa CDC, has said his organization is taking appropriate action and making appropriate decisions. And with that, we call it a wrap on this edition of Welbodi. Many thanks to you for listening, and special regards to my resource persons as well as my colleagues for their contributions. For your feedback on the program, email us at wadr.org. Until next time, do stay safe out there. I am Oge Obierika.